Hello and welcome. We are going to look at the execution order and behavior of the awake function, the start function, the OnEnable function, and the OnDisable function. By default, when a C# script is created in Unity, the start function is automatically created, but not the awake function. You need to manually create it. Let me type in the awake function. Awake function is called when the script instance is being loaded or when the game object to which the script is attached is instantiated. When a game is started and a game object is disabled or is inactive, the awake function in any attached script will not be called. Here we have cube script attached to the cube game object. Let's disable the cube and enter play mode to see. The awake function did not run. But when the cube is active as startup and even the attached script is disabled, the awake function will still be called. This is not the case with the start function. It only runs when the script is also enabled. Both the awake and start functions are called once in the lifetime of a game object, but awake will always precede start in the order of execution. This order is always the same even if there are multiple game objects and scripts in your game. When we enter play mode, see how all the awake functions of the scripts are called before any of the start functions. So you see from the console output that all the awake functions were called before any of the start functions were called. What then is the order in which multiple scripts are executed on one or more game objects? The answer is it is random. Since we cannot determine in what order the awake functions of different scripts attached to game objects will be called, remember not to make references to components of other game objects in an awake function. This might result in an error depending on the order in which the scripts were executed. Let me demonstrate to you a typical example. We have added the rigid body component to the cube. In the awake function of the script, cube script, we initialize our RB variable by referencing the game object's rigid body component. In the script, script1, we will access the rigid body component of the cube to assign a velocity to the game object in its awake function. If the awake function of the cube script is called before that of script 1, there will be no problem. So you see from the console output that script 1's awake function was called after the rigid body variable of the cube has been initialized in the awake function of the cube script. But when script 1's awake function is called ahead of that of cube script, this will lead to an error. This is because script 1 is trying to access an unassigned variable of cube script. So what's the point so far? Make reference to a game object's components in the awake function of its own attached script, and make reference to the components of other game objects in the start function instead. So we'll place the code in the awake function of script 1 into its start function instead. And everything will always work fine. The OnEnable function is called only when a game object is enabled, and OnDisable is called when an object is disabled. Unlike the awake and start functions, the OnEnable and the OnDisable functions can be called multiple times in the lifetime of a game object. Enabling and disabling the attached script or the game object will cause the OnEnable and OnDisable functions to run respectively. If you want to initialize some variables or set some properties anytime the game object is enabled or re-enabled, then placing them in the OnEnable function is the right way to go. For example, if you want to set the health status of a player or an enemy, or set the drag property value of a rigid body component anytime the game object is enabled, then do so in the OnEnable function. Or perhaps you want to keep count of the total time a game object remains active. Then in the OnDisable function, you can record the uptime when it is being disabled. This is where we come to the end of this tutorial. Please subscribe to this channel for more videos. Thank you.